Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. We begin tonight on Windsor's waterfront, where a new multi-million-dollar feature was unveiled today. After long delays, much debate, and a ballooning budget, a restored streetcar and eatery are now complete on the riverfront. CBC's Jacob Barker has more on the official reveal.
This is Streetcar 351. It's a focal point for a new plaza on the Windsor waterfront and a piece of Windsor's history.
Car 351, originally painted yellow, proudly donned a vibrant red coat in Windsor, blushing with pride and transporting many citizens across the rapidly evolving landscape. The last streetcar stopped running in Windsor on May the 7th, 1939.
Council first gave it the go-ahead in 2017, and work along the waterfront at the foot of Karen Road began in 2023. Known originally as the Celestial Beacon, the project did face some controversy along the way, delays, and rising costs. In all, the project ended up costing the city more than $10 million.
We are investing in the creation of a vibrant district on the waterfront, infrastructure and amenities to attract and to support our growing and our evolving community.
Many I spoke with today about the project were excited.
Bring the kids, bring the grandkids. We're going to bring our great-grandkids.
Others weren't fans at all.
I'm very upset that we don't have a playground here anymore. Here to preserve such a kind of thing, like a historical thing, goes so much money. In Europe, like, we have trams everywhere, and we don't spend so much money to make this kind of museum.
One participant at a small protest by transit activists outside today's event wasn't necessarily against the project, but he found irony in it.
This cost over $10 million. In the recent city budget, though, council couldn't stomach $1.6 million to fund the tunnel bus or to fund transit service annually.
The plaza here is being named after former Mayor Mike Hurst. He was on hand and emotional.
To me, there is no more meaningful tribute one can receive than a tribute from one's hometown.
The plaza here will now be known as the Michael D. Hurst Legacy Park and Beacon. There are activities planned through the weekend to mark the occasion, including tours of the beacon, snacks, and some live performances. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
Turning to the federal election now, we are just days away, and Indigenous people in our community say what matters to them has largely been ignored on the campaign trail. Pratyush Thayal explains.
The election is now days away, but some voters I spoke with say the campaign lagged Indigenous people's concerns.
It's frustrating. It absolutely is.
Kat Basquash is a member of Moose Cree First Nation.
The three things that are top of mind for me right now are housing. So thinking about housing on reserves and access to that, making things more affordable, and how that will be addressed for Indigenous people, food sovereignty and access to food. We know that the cost of food has risen in urban areas. How is that going to be addressed and for Indigenous people in remote areas of this nation, as well as the opioid crisis.
Jason Henry is a former chief of Chippewas of Kettle and Stony Point First Nation. He also ran as an NDP candidate in the 2021 election, but was unsuccessful.
And Canada's implementation of counter tariffs has affected us greatly as Indigenous people. It's made us afraid to cross the border and to exercise our right to free trade. That's not even a topic issue.
This political scientist says tariffs are dominating the election campaign,
which is very much a major issue in the Windsor-Essex region. A lot of the tariffs and things that people are talking about really impact that area. And so that seems to be what's carrying most of the conversation right now, which I understand, but that doesn't provide reason to sidestep Indigenous content.
The major parties have all released their platforms and promises to Indigenous voters, but experts I have spoken with say some may feel underrepresented due to there being fewer Indigenous candidates running in this election. They say economic reconciliation is behind politicians' promises.
And the strength of the economy, its sovereignty vis-a-vis the United States, and so on. But what we have to remember in that, of course, is that Indigenous communities are nations within Canada, and they themselves have sovereignty as well.
Is there still this focus still on economics as being part of reconciliation? And it's not that it can't be, it's not the only thing that needs to be focused on. And that's the problem here. We're seeing now the focus is on that because that seems to be the buzzword and the main thing to draw in majority of Canadians.
That's what Pasquash wants leaders and voters to think about.
An election is representation of so many more issues than just our relationship to the neighbors of the South.
Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for our first look at weather, and what a day it was, Colette. It was amazing. Like, I felt like I came back to life today. It was
good,
awesome.
good. And I hope lots of folks had that kind of feeling when you have just beautiful weather conditions and the temperature popping up to, how about 27 degrees, the high for today, matched, in fact, by Hamilton, also 27, Sarnia 24. Finally got those winds to flip around so that the temperature came up there today, and even London at 26, Kitchener 25. I mean, some incredible numbers for this time. We're not even into May yet. But where we have that cooler air to the north, and then obviously we're into the warmer sector, along that battle zone from the Bruce Peninsula over to about Prince Edward County or just east of there, that's where the rain showers and thunderstorms have set up. We should stay dry tonight. Slight chance of a passing shower, 13. But tomorrow we won't be able to avoid it. I'll walk you through the timing on things. The high, though, still 23.
Okay, thank you, Colette. Up next, we go to a story that's captured national attention. Police have shot and killed a man at Toronto's Pearson Airport. They say the man was involved in a dispute with a group of people outside a terminal when police were called.
Our officers spent an amount of time trying to resolve the dispute, an immense amount of de-escalation and engagement with the parties. However, abruptly, one of the individuals produced a firearm at our officers, and I must say that there were 3 officers that responded. As a result of that, to protect themselves and the community and the passengers here at the airport, 2 of the officers engaged with the individual. As a result, the subject was shot.
The man in his 30s was pronounced dead. Officials say no officers were injured. Ontario's Special Investigations Unit is looking into the incident, and the airport says flights are continuing to operate normally. More on the election now. Young voters are a group that don't typically go to the polls. According to Elections Canada, less than half of eligible 18 to 24-year-olds voted in the 2021 federal election. That's the lowest percentage of any age group. Some people might be quick to say that they're uninformed, but the CBC's Katie Fraser found the opposite among a group of voters casting their ballot for the first time.
Hi, I'm Sarah Harris. I'm voting for the first time. I'm from Walkerville Collegiate Institute, and I'm a grade 12 student. People can be so misinformed, not just my generation, but older generations. I tried to look at the, kind of like the boring information, like the actual policies, the numbers, like what isn't presented online, like TikTok, social media, what you hear, like kind of like the dog whistles. It's not just that, just going up beyond that.
My top would definitely be like cost of living, so like housing, like groceries, stuff like that, and obviously environmental issues, so like climate change, like what's going on, like how we deal with certain like mass production of materials. And the politicians that just blatantly ignore it, I find to be very irresponsible, because I don't think that it'll go away if you just ignore it or pretend it doesn't exist.
Who is going to do what for my student loans? I'm moving to Toronto, and I want to know, will I be able to afford housing next year when I won't be living in dorms? Will I be coming out of university in debt, especially for marginalized groups at the moment, and thinking about queer youth?
Do you find other people your age are as engaged in this election as you are?
I think this election specifically, a lot of people are more engaged, and I think that because of everything going on, people are more eager to get their say in and go vote.
I also see that some politicians don't understand the fact that we are just entering the voting bracket, and sooner or later some of us in this generation are going to be those people in those seats one day. If they don't see what we want and understand how we want things to be changed and what needs to be brought upon, it's going to create probably a dysfunction, I would like to say.
I think that at this time we're reaching an echo chamber of what we see on social media and what we see on our phones, which is, it's an algorithm, it's curated. You don't get to see every single perspective. So I would like to see politicians being able to reach you in ways that are more accessible and not just on your phone. Like, be a human and not just this blank canvas that is staring back at you.
All I've seen is really about like the jobs in the motor industry. And it's like, yes, that does affect us a lot. My dad's in that industry, and he's scared about like the shutdown. It's his income source. So it is definitely up there, but it's not one of my main focuses.
Me and my parents have opposite views, like opposing candidates that we're voting for. Knowing what the other party says that they're going to do and what like they actually might do would definitely be beneficial to who you're going to vote for.
Are you having debates in your house?
Oh, for sure, every night.
Who's winning?
Depends on who you talk to.
Encouraging people to get out to vote has been a big focus ahead of Election Day, and that includes homeless people who can face barriers when it comes to having their say. CBC's Josh Crabb looks into how some shelters in Winnipeg are working to eliminate those hurdles.
He doesn't have a permanent address. Edward Parisian says that won't stop him from voting.
I always watch about it on the news about who's running, prepare and all that, and I noticed that they gave us a form and they told us it's voting time.
Parisian is staying at the Salvation Army's Centre of Hope, one of several homeless shelters in Winnipeg's inner city. Elections Canada wants to make sure people like Parisian can have their say on issues that directly affect them: the cost of living, homelessness, and a lack of affordable housing.
We go try to rent the place. It's hard to get a place because I don't know, there's not enough here.
Not having a place to live is one barrier to voting. So is a lack of identification, transportation, and access to campaign promises. Margot Ross with Siloam Mission says that shouldn't stop people from taking part.
We'll have drop-in staff who hold the strongest relationships with our community members, encouraging folks to go out and vote.
Elections Canada workers have been visiting shelters like Siloam Mission to give letters to staff so they can vouch for the people who use their services to prove their identity. Cindy Titus with Main Street Project says outreach workers helped 17 people vote in advance polls, and she says they're working to get more people out on Election Day.
The folks that we serve have a lot of other things going on, and that they made voting a priority in their days. That's a pretty big deal.
They're also providing information on the candidates and their platforms. Parisian compliments the effort to get more people to vote, but would like to see more outreach.
Maybe more people should come out here and walk around and tell us.
Parisian has voted before and hopes more people take advantage of the opportunity. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Windsor, Essex is not known for an abundance of tree coverage, so it may surprise you to learn that a local conservation group has planted 7 million trees in our region. It's an environmental activity that took root more than half a century ago. Our Dawson Chen was on hand for today's 7 millionth milestone.
I'm Dawson Chen, and I'm standing next to the 7 millionth tree planted by the Essex Region Conservation Authority. This humble basswood stripling might not look like much right now, but it can grow more than 30 meters in height and more than a meter in diameter. The tree represents more than 50 years of IRCA tree planting. According to the organization, tree coverage in Windsor, Essex has grown from just 3% in 1973 to over 8% today. But IRCA's Chief Administrative Officer, Tim Burney, says continued conservation and restoration efforts are needed.
We need these areas. Purify air, purify water, hold soil together. Extinction touches everyone and everything. So people need to realize we will not be here if these areas are not here.
Still, it's a celebration. The 7 millionth tree is now taking root in the Maidstone Conservation Area, which is the first conservation area IRCA established in the region. IRCA Chair Molly Allaire says work is underway to plant 70,000 more trees over the next 6 weeks.
I'd also like to take a moment to recognize IRCA staff. Seriously, guys, we would be nowhere without them. Past and present, who all deserve a great deal of credit for their achievement. 7 million trees, wow.
We might only have to wait a few decades for this tree to get big and strong. Among North American hardwood trees, basswoods have exceptional growth rates, twice as fast as beech trees and birch trees. And I'm told basswoods are favored by woodpeckers for habitat and housing. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Lakeshore.
A live look outside there on this truly perfect day. When we come back from our break, we're going to see what federal leaders were up to today in the final stretch of the election campaign. Stay with us. Welcome back. Pierre Poilievre spent day 33 of the election campaign hammering home what's been his message from day one, that the Liberal agenda will mean higher taxes and higher inflation. The CBC's Kate McKenna reports.
We're in the final stretch now, and today Pierre Poilievre had a very specific and deliberate message for voters, and that is that this election is about change. He has been trying to tie Mark Carney to Justin Trudeau since before the campaign even began, but now that message is in overdrive. We heard Pierre Poilievre say the word change more than 50 times today. Same thing yesterday. There are posters at his rallies that say change. It's the backdrop at some of his events. Here's what he had to say.
My approach is to bring change. Change by cutting bureaucracy, taxes, and bringing down the cost of living. Change by unleashing the construction of new homes and Canadian resources to bring back the $500 billion that Liberals pushed south. Change so that Canadians can create jobs here at home.
What goes unsaid is that if this campaign is about change, then it is less about Donald Trump. And that is the ballot question that the Liberals have been pushing since before the campaign even began. Poilievre has struggled to define himself on that issue. So now we have a campaign with two leaders proposing two separate ballot questions. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Halifax.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is targeting traditional party supporters, trying to shore up the base before the election on Monday. He made his pitch in Winnipeg.
What's on the line in this election are working people and everyday families. That's what's on the line. That's what I'm focused on. We got 4 days left of this campaign, and we got working people out here. We got middle-class families out here wondering, who's going to fight for me? Who's going to stand up for me? I'm never going to back down for fighting for those folks.
Singh says when Liberals are given all the power, they abandon workers. And Liberal leader Mark Carney has admitted that U.S. President Donald Trump mentioned Canada as the 51st state when they talked last month. At the time, Carney had said Trump respected Canadian sovereignty during the phone call. And he's still saying that's true, but others say Carney misled Canadians and questioned his transparency. The CBC's Evan Dyer has the story.
The President and I had a very constructive, very productive discussion.
Mark Carney's call with Donald Trump on March 28th seemed to mark a turning point in the U.S.-Canada relationship, after which Trump seemed to adopt a more respectful tone.
We had a very good conversation with the Prime Minister. They've got an election going on, so we're going to meet after the election.
It was all very different from the rude tone Trump had taken with Justin Trudeau.
I spoke to Governor Trudeau on numerous occasions, and we'll see what happens.
Trump also seemed to stop his public talk about forcing Canada to become the 51st state.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
But while the public talk stopped, CBC News has learned that Trump continued to push his 51st state agenda in private on the call. Today, Jagmeet Singh said Carney hadn't made that clear at the time.
He said that Donald Trump respected our sovereignty. Now it's come out that he instead actually brought back up the 51st state.
But Carney's main rival didn't appear keen to discuss the matter.
Well, that's a question for Mr. Carney to answer. I wasn't there. But what's clear is we will stand up for our sovereignty. We will never be an American state.
The President brings this up all the time. He brought it up yesterday. He's brought it up before.
Carney says the news that Trump raised his 51st state agenda shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone.
I have said well before that call, and virtually every time that I've spoken since that call, that President Trump, the Americans, want to break us so they can own us.
Carney said he wasn't trying to mislead.
The President has certain things in his mind that he reverts back to all the time, but treated me as the Prime Minister, not as something else. I'm not even going to say the word he used to use about my predecessor.
It's not clear how this issue will affect the campaign in its last days. On the one hand, Singh's reaction suggests that it's a chance to raise questions about Carney's transparency. Poilievre's lack of reaction, on the other hand, suggests that the Conservatives still see every mention of Trump and the 51st state as unhelpful to their chances. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
And CBC has you covered for Monday, election night. Chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton will be hosting, and it'll start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, wherever you watch CBC News. We'll be right back. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more on weather. And Colette, we talked earlier about what a gorgeous day today was, and we know that tomorrow we're still going to enjoy some milder temperatures, but it does come with some rainfall. So talk us through it.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about this trade-off that we have, and that's what we kind of have to deal with, as we're going to be seeing a bit of a change over there. At least we snuck today in 27 degrees. Very nice conditions. Not a record. Few degrees off that. In fact, the record is just over 30 degrees for this date in history, but very decent indeed. Chatham-Kent, 26. These are still the current temperatures. 27 was our high, but we're still holding. And looking at Sarnia there and some of those temperatures as the winds have changed directions. So earlier in the show, yeah, they had the warmth too, and now a little change in direction, and there goes those temperature dipping down once again. Yeah, a nice evening on our on tap or on our hands that we have to deal with. A little bit of cloud cover, not much to it. The real boundary has set up to the north, again, where there's that battle between the warm air and the cooler air, and that's where the rain showers have been, and even some thunderstorms there from the Bruce Peninsula over towards about Kingston. But we've got this next wave of energy coming in as we go through tomorrow. So tonight's looking good, just a slim chance for a shower, and I don't really see it happening. But into Friday, here we go. In the morning, a few things beginning to bubble up. It gets a little more intense towards Chatham-Kent. We'll probably get a reprieve in between. And then you see another line. This is 4 p.m. where I've stopped this, kind of shaping up, and it's going to be making its way through from west to east. And then even behind that, in the later evening hours, we still have a few sporadic showers or little, localized some heavier downpours from the remnant thunderstorms. So kind of a lot going on off and on through the day tomorrow and evening. Into Saturday, there is some wraparound cloud. You got to have some patience here, because eventually you see that cloud will erode on Saturday, and there will be clearing as the day wears on. The other thing is that means that's a really nice setup for us into Sunday, where things look good. Overnight temperature tonight, 13 degrees, a very mild overnight low, and we'll climb 10 degrees from there. So we're still going to make it to 23, still into the 20s, and it's not an all-day thing like I was just showing you there. So there'll be many pockets of the day, probably kind of the mid part, where there's a lot of good conditions to enjoy. Once we get into that clearing Saturday, the only thing is back, in fact, a little below seasonal for the high Saturday. Sunday, though, there it is, sunshine and 18. Monday, we'll take it back into the 20s once again. And Tuesday, just a heads up, could have some severe weather that day, several days out, but we'll be watching it.
Okay, we know you'll be prepping us for it. Thank you, Colette. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.